another Watchlist, my weekly rundown of what I've been watching and what I've been up to. 5 films as usual, and a weird and wild bunch of 5 films this week to talk about. And I'm going to start with, well, a film that I've seen on the Criterion channel as part of their art house animation series. This is a collection of animation that has this, view of being art house or maybe a bit more niche. Some of the stuff you'll recognise, like Carl Zeman's work, Watership Downs on that, etc. And this one is a film by Eiichi Yamamoto, and it's called Belladonna of Sadness. Belladonna of Sadness is an animated film, obviously from Japan, that is not like modern anime. It's very much watercolour in style and the way the thing morphs through. It's very much that canvas that rolls from left to right of the images sweeping and depicting different images, some of which are very graphic, I have to say, because this story tells the tale of Jean, who is a woman on her wedding night that is essentially raped by the evil lord of the realm and the people that work for him. And she goes home to her husband, Jean. So we've got Jean and Jean. And she's tormented by the events that happened to her and how she deals with it now, appearing to her as this rather phallic thing that is ostensibly the devil. And she makes deals with the devil in order to exact revenge or to get power back into her life. And the story revolves around this relationship and about the ways that she compromises herself in order to exact revenge or to feel better about everything that happened to her. Like I say, the imagery in it in some places is just really tough to watch. It's incredibly graphic and stomach churning in some ways. But once you get past the first 20 minutes of that bit, I think what you're left with is a bit of a borderline masterpiece, especially in animation terms. I think the story is both, one that you may have seen and heard beforehand, but the way that the imagery on the screen and the like I say, the watercolor nature of the images wash across, it is, while being graphic at the start, is also incredibly beautiful as we explore Jean's both mental imagery and the effect of her on the world around her and what she ends up doing. It's absolutely incredible, and it kind of blew me away. And a lot of these films that are in the art house animation that I've watched a few more of fall into this genre as being things that you just wouldn't see and you don't see very often. So there is a standard Blu-ray release of this, but there also happens to be a third window films release of some of the other films that this person made that are attributed to Osamu Tezuka, who was the subject of a documentary released recently on Third Window Films. And this is a release that I picked up because it was cheap. And I remember thinking before I picked it up that, what am I picking this up for? This is not something that I'll ever be interested in. And it's the 1001 Nights and Cleopatra thing that is broadly down as erotic animation. So you have it here, and the release, as you'll see. And while I haven't delved into this release again, this didn't half open up a whole cornucopia of ideas of things that I would ordinarily not have watched. I picked this up because it was cheap at the time, and lo and behold, sometime later after I picked it up, I'm now quite invested in this filmmaker. Classic example of how our collecting habits or our film watching tendencies tend to bleed in and change as time goes on, and that is Belladonna of Sadness. Terrific. Next one up is a Criterion release, and actually a somewhat much more famous film than the previous one. This one is the Criterion release of Bringing Up Baby. And Bringing Up Baby is one of the classic screwball comedies from the era. This one's by Howard Hawks, and it tells the story of a man played by Cary Grant who is due to be married. And he's going to be married in what seems like a marriage of convenience. He's going to be a token part in a marriage, and he meets and runs into Katharine Hepburn's character, who's a bit of an oddball off the wall female who comes from a bit of money, it seems to be like, but is set from the very first meeting that, well, she sets her sights on Cary Grant and pursues him in what can only be described in a very odd manner. She lures him into helping her under the pretense of her being a damsel in distress and him being a decent man. He cannot help himself. Coupled with this is the fact that we have, well, a leopard called Baby who comes into Katharine Hepburn's character's care, and they need to find it, need to bring it up together as they are speaking over the course of this day, and takes her to the house in the countryside, the rich property, and you have the very much the screwball nature, the screwball comedy that's plays very nicely along other films of that time period. Now I watched this with a wife, and my wife liked this film so much that I actually caught her slapping her leg with her trying to control her laughter throughout it. It is hilarious throughout. It is one of those classic films from the era. I will say that the restoration of it does show some difficulty. It is still quite damaged, I think, in some ways, but as I often say, it's amazing that we get films of this quality at all, never mind what we have here. It is a terrific release. It is one of the most stacked releases that I can remember or think of. There's audio commentaries, there are interviews about the cinematographer, there's interviews with film scholars, etc. in it, and there's a rather weighty and heavy booklet in here as well, which I very much enjoyed going through. It is a biggie and a big hefty release, I think it's fair to say. Bringing Up Baby really sits at the very top of the screwball comedy genre, and I urge you, if you like that kind of film and think maybe this is just another one of, that this is one of the very best of. It is hilarious throughout, and Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn on screen are every bit as good as they are in the Philadelphia Story. They are dynamite as a couple on there. Highly recommended. Next up is an 88 Films release. Now, these releases I'm a bit torn on, to be honest, because they're premium releases, but maybe unnecessarily so. So we have So Sweet So Perverse, which is part of the Italian collection. It's Spine number 67, which is another oddity, because they keep on releasing these out of order. 61, etc. is coming out afterwards. Bizarre. But So Sweet So Perverse it's an Umberto Lenzi film. The kid is broadly said as a giallo, but is a bit more of a mystery than nearly a strict giallo. We have a character that's very Jean Macron looking, like here played by Jean Trintignant. Basically didn't say that. And Carol Baker here as well. Carol Baker moves in to the room above where our main character lives. He's a well-known ladies' man. He is married, but he seems to have very open affairs with his wife. It seems like she is fine with it, or otherwise, but that may or may not be true. And Carol Baker moves in above. She seems to be, again, this damsel in distress. And Jean's character's, well, he just wants to help her out while being attracted to her, and he gets caught in this kind of web of deceit and tricks and lies, or otherwise, that is very reminiscent, or is actually loosely based on Le Diabolique story. It's not really Diabolique because it's not a retelling of that story, but it definitely has many of the same themes in that femme fatale story that's in there. It's another really solid Italian film with plenty of twists and turns. It'll keep you guessing, and it does that wonderful thing that happens in many of these films, is that you realise exactly what's happening about 2.5 seconds before it actually appears on the screen. I think that form of storytelling is always incredibly powerful, and when done correctly leads to a feeling of exhilaration when you're watching it. And that type of storytelling is incredibly effective and shown very well here. I say I'm a bit conflicted about these releases because you do get an absolutely beautiful hard case here, and we all know as collectors we love hard cases, but the booklet I don't think is anything to write home about. I have read it. It's not that it's bad or anything, but you can see it's quite sparse in terms of text. I mean, I don't want to run it down because these are nice releases, but they're also about £10 more than what they will be. They're very short, limited runs, but as far as I can see. And, I mean, I feel like I'm giving off about it, but I have bought every one that's been released so far, between Tough Ones, Battle of Professionals, Zombie 5, this, None of the Devil. They are nice, they are premium, but I'm really conflicted as a collector and someone that wants to buy these films upon release, kind of more so than willing to wait. If I wait 3 months, I can get the lesser version with maybe just the case, but then I don't get to see this release for 3 months. It's a premium that I'm conflicted about, but as far as a film goes, I think So Sweet So Perverse is terrific, and definitely one that you should check out. Next up is a recent release by Third Window Films, and I've kind of talked about Third Window Films already there, but they recently released Funuke, Show Some Love You Losers, which is, okay, let's get it right out there, is not the greatest film or the most enticing film title that you've ever seen, but it fits quite squarely in this third window genre film that is not something you're going to see maybe released anywhere else. It tells the story of a family whose parents die at the start in a rather tragic accident, and the son is there with his wife. There's a younger sister, and then there's another sister that comes back who's been living in Tokyo trying to make a living or trying to make a career as a actress. Now she returns back and she's quite entitled. She is quite possibly one of the most hateful characters I've seen in cinema in recent times. Not quite older sister in Tokyo Story levels of hate, but not far off. She's the type of person that is so entitled that she expects everybody to do and sacrifice for her goal, even though she seems completely oblivious to what her talents or what she can do. Your relationship with her as a character, or willing to forgive her or run with her, may override your entire enjoyment of this film. I think the younger character, the younger sister, who's this meek, quiet girl who is also supremely talented, kind of shows the contrast between, you know, many families that have similar kind of build-ups. We have older siblings that are well looked after and revered and let run with their ideas and their whims, and then they have the other quieter people in the family that are often left to do these brilliant things in a more quiet sense. And like I say, it's a typically great pick from Third Window because it's quirky, it's funny, it's a very heavy satirized film on this whole genre. They have the wonderful relationship with the sister and then the wife. Now the wife is very much a put upon wife. There's no real love in this relationship between the sister, although it's hinted, certainly at the start, that there's a relationship between the brother and the sister, even more so than the wife. But she is so accommodating. She's the very opposite of the older sister, in that she will go to any lengths to make people happy or make them accept her basically in the family. And it's a bit madcap. It's maybe a bit overly long, but that's mainly because we have this kind of third act in the coda bit that takes the story in a slightly different direction, or gives it a resolution that maybe it wasn't set up to do that at the start. That's what gives the film the extra 20 minutes or so that maybe was not expected. But a film that was incredibly enjoyable. It was good fun throughout, and like I say, we have a character in the central that we absolutely hate with our very being, and want to see, I'd say for the most part, her come to a bad end. And whether she does or does not, or whether she gets redemption, is what the whole play and the story and the film is. And lastly, we have a film that was a recommendation from another channel. This is from Into the Blue, and it's a Matteo Garrone film, and it's Tale of Tales. And again, another one of these artificial live releases. Just happened to pick them up for a few pounds, and well, it turns out that it's an absolutely amazing film. Who knew? This Tale of Tales is a dark fantasy group of 3 stories. It's interesting that I think that on the front of this, the lead billing goes to Salma Hayek and John C. Reilly, because they just form up part of the first tale, which tells the tale of a queen who wants to conceive. She wants to have baby and she cannot, and she is foretold that she will have a baby if certain conditions are met, but that it will carry a cost in life. Now, without ruining what happens there, what happens is that a baby is born, a young albino boy is born, but at the same time, one of the servants gives birth to a child that is, for all intents and purposes, an identical twin of the child that she has. And there's this idea that one lives in privilege, one lives in poverty, and they're treated very differently, especially by the queen. She does not want this more impoverished child to be seen on the same level, even though they look identical, and so she shuns the two of them from seeing each other. But these two boys are inexplicably linked together and want to spend as much time as they have together, and set about making plans and plots that basically join them together, that if ever either of them is in trouble, they have a way to contact and get in contact with each other. That first film, or that first tale, is then set aside, finished. The next tale tells the story of a king who has a daughter who wants to live life. She doesn't really want to be kept in a castle. She wants to marry. She wants to meet a handsome prince and live the rest of her life with that person. But the king, played incredibly by Toby Jones, I have to say. This is really one of these standout performances throughout the entire thing. He finds a flea, or what it tends to be a flea, and he looks after the flea, and the flea starts to get bigger and bigger and bigger until it becomes enormous. But he's such love for this flea that when it dies, he's so consumed by grief that he loses all sense and holds a contest for a suitor for the daughter. See if anybody can tell what animal the fleece or the hide came from, etc. It all goes badly wrong, and basically what you're left with is a young girl who's left to question whether the life that she wanted, or the life that she has now been given, is exactly what she wanted, because you don't get to choose everything that happens to you in life. And the other tale tells the story of a prince king, I think it's a king, who, while at his window, hears the beautiful songstress of somebody singing from within the town. And he's so enchanted by this voice and this singing that he has to make the person that is the owner of this voice his queen, or his mate, or otherwise. And he sets about trying to bang in the door and deliver gifts to the person, the minstrel that's inside this house. However, inside this house lives two women that are old, that are very poor, that are very run down. They do not look after themselves. They're very antithesis of what he's probably looking for and what he imagines based on the voice. And he ends up having an agreement that the person will meet him in the castle for a night of loving romance. Oh, but only they'll do it under one condition, which is that it's in total darkness. And it's in the next day of total darkness, or when it's only when the next morning arrives and darkness is lifted, that he gets to see what this person looks like, and he basically throws them out to be killed. And they don't die. And the story then goes on, or the fable goes on to tell the story of, well, beauty is own skin deep. What happens if I repackage this or otherwise? I've maybe told a bit too much of the stories that are contained within, but what you have is a terrific group of tales that are told. They're dark fantasy. They are not this bright, vibrant. I mean, it has not been shot that way. It doesn't mean that things aren't beautiful, but the grotesque is really grotesque, and the things that are beautiful are resplendent. And you have a really, really great mix of stories that are being told here, and that ultimately make up a great film. And I know that Carl from Into the Blue rates this director very, very highly, and you can see why, because this is an absolutely incredible set of tales pulled together to make what is a great film, and highly recommended that as well. The one thing I'll say about the print is, not that I'm one to ever notice anything that's good about prints or quality of prints, but there is some really bad macro blocking in some of the scenes here. It only happens here and there, but if that kind of thing really annoys you, which I have to say I noticed, but whatever for me, This print has some of that in it, but don't let it take away from the quality of the film. It is terrific. And that is my watch list for the week. A really enjoyable set of and group of films this week that I'm really delighted to have been able to bring to you. Let me know what you've been watching, what you've been up to, or whether you've seen any of these films, and let me know if you share my thoughts, or even better if you disagree. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you soon. Take care. All the best. Bye.